You are listening to the default audio track, which includes instructional narrative. To turn off the instructional narrative, simply press the audio button on your DVD remote to listen to music, and press it again to just listen to the sounds of the ride. Welcome everybody to the Tour to Steamboat Stage 3. This is a nice climbing stage, and we'll go over some rollers, hook on with a few people, and then we'll begin our climb in about a half an hour. Today we have another special guest. His name is Michael Seberg, and he wrote Road Biking Colorado, the statewide guide, which is a great guide for road cyclists out here, or if you're looking to just come visit, pick up the book and you can take a look at all the different rides and routes that are out here. But we'll let him talk a little bit about that, and not me. Hey Michael.
How you doing?
Great.
Thanks for the intro.
Oh, sure. So Mike's an avid cyclist. He's also a rock climber. Lives in Denver, Colorado. And is well known for the Road Biking Colorado book. And I bought this book in about 2005, 2006. When I was planning on moving out to Colorado, and I was living in Nevada at the time, and I had no idea that I'd be riding alongside the author.
Oh, it's just another guy writing a book. You know, it's totally a build it and they will come kind of thing. You know, I just took on the project took on a life of its own, and I kept asking myself, what would I want to see in a book like this? And I didn't necessarily just listen to myself. I just thought, what would people want in a book like this? And if I just followed that template, then I knew, that people would at least appreciate the resource.
Well, I did.
No, thanks for that. And I hear people talk about planning, they plan their whole summer vacation. Let's plan their whole summer vacation with a book. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Or, it's accurate, or whatever the comments are, it's great. People, I sleep with it by my bed. I hear it called the Bible a lot.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Of course, I was raised going to Sunday school in a Catholic church, so that's a little odd for my book to be called the Bible, but.
So we'll be doing a couple things. I want to talk to Michael about his book, and about also training techniques. He's avid climber, I mean, both rock climbing and my impression from your book is that you like bike rides that have some climbing in it.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much all there is in Colorado.
And there's definitely a lot of that kind of goes without saying.
So yeah, if you grow up, you know, spending many years in places like Durango and Aspen, there's really, it's nothing but uphill from town.
Yeah.
With a few flats here and there, but that's about it. So you just, you can aspire to it, but really you have no choice. So, you know, you either develop an ability for it, or you continue to struggle because they don't go away.
Well, while we're doing this conversation, I'm also going to try to throw in a few tidbits about what you should be doing on the ride right now. For example, we should be in a neutral gear, just ahead of neutral. As we're climbing up this little climb here, let's add some resistance. Make our legs feel the climb a little bit. Our heart rate is jumping into the anaerobic zone. And this is a kind of an interval-y start, as we have these rollers that we'll be cranking up over the top of. And now we're coming down the backside, so we can take off resistance and bring the cadence up. You'll notice the two graphs at the bottom. The upper graph is the hill profile, and you can see that the hill starts off at the end and ends the ride. And the lower graph is our effort profile, showing you changes in effort. So right now we're resting a little bit, and we got another little hill coming up, so we're going to add some resistance and work our way up it and bringing the heart rate up. Is it slipping?
I think I just didn't have it tight enough.
Alright. And coming down the backside.
Take on the side of the road.
So let's add some resistance. Let's crank up over the top. Just a little resistance. Nothing big down here, but just enough to get our heart rate up. For those of you who are just starting out on this stage, you'll let your heart rate come up on its own. Don't force it up with sprints or any super hard efforts. We're already about 2.5 hours into the century, so the heart rate changes much quicker in the video because we're already tired.
Yeah. Well, these little rollers add up, you know. These warm-ups are always real important. I'm looking at the climb ahead there, and well, these little rollers are just what we need. A little bit of effort, back off, a little bit of effort.
Oh yeah.
Back off. By the time we get there, we'll be ready to go. Beautiful scene.
Yeah, it's a beautiful road.
Looking south toward, we're looking south. Can't see the Gore Range yet, but
oh no, we will though.
It's out there to the south.
I think we feel it before we see it.
Yeah. Beautiful jagged peaks of Gore Range. There's some amazing spots up in there. It's one of my first camp trips on as a kid.
Oh really?
I've been to Eagle's Nest. I was like 14 or 15.
Huh.
I thought it was really something. I had a big old survival knife on my belt. We were hiking there in the middle of the night, and you know, I was a little kid. Well, I know. So I was actually worried I might need to use it. But I learned over the years that most of the animals are afraid of you.
Yeah, really.
Unless they're desperate.
You see we're taking off resistance, Mike, on the gear guide, spinning it up, adding cadence, and taking off resistance. So my understanding, Mike, is that you mapped out over 6,500 miles of paved roads here in Colorado. Yeah?
That's true. That's hard to believe.
Now, did you actually ride all of these routes, or?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Well, here's how the progression went. I mean, to begin with, I've been riding all over the state since, let's see, I bought my first serious bike when I was a summer job when I was 15. Started riding up into the foothills. Schwinn Superlatour. It was quite a heavy bike.
That's fine.
I learned all my bike mechanics on it. Broke it down, painted the frame a couple times. The bike has some memories. But
yeah, old bike.
yeah, it's just trying to think back all the stories. It's amazing.
So we got another roller here. We're heading on up. Resistance is a 7 out of 10.
Really steep little bugger.
Yeah. So what criteria did you use to select the routes on in your book?
Oh, yeah, so to answer your question, you know, I've been riding all over the state all these years, and I would literally, you know, look at a map and go, hey, there's a nice squiggly line over a pass that looks like it'd be, you know, and this is from seeing pictures of the Tour de France and other races on very little coverage. We'd get a few photos here and there in the newspaper or an obscure publication. And so you have these dreams of that scene with the big mountain roads, and the riders, and the big climbs. And you know, so I'd look at a map and, now let's go check out this road. We'll ride from here to here. And a particular story comes to mind. I think it's in my book, actually. I was riding a buddy of mine from Creed to Lake City and back. 100-mile ride, 2 passes. So we got to go up over both sides of each pass. Way there and the way back. And it was Spring Creek Pass and Slumgullion. And I didn't put no mind to 100 miles, 2 passes. Not a big deal for us at the time. But, so we rode up over Spring Creek. Pretty mellow climb out of Creed. And so the first 40 miles was up over the 2 passes. Nice little dip between 2 passes, no big deal. Then we start plummeting into Lake City down the north side of Slumgullion. 10% grades for 10 miles.
Seriously?
Yeah. Just kept going down and down and down, and just started getting this lump in my throat. Oh, we got to ride back out of here. 50 miles back out of here. Lake City is one of the most remote towns in the state, so just surrounded by wilderness. And
so they have a mirror out here.
yeah, that's amazing.
It's clear water.
Beautiful. What reservoir is that?
I don't know. You tell me.
I know, I should know. I probably knew the day I drove past.
Yeah, it was on Google. I just forgot to write it down. But you can see on a little mini map. It's a big reservoir. There's a little bit on both sides of the road here.
Yeah. So we got into Lake City and, you know, got a cup of coffee and we got right back on our bikes, so we didn't want to seize up. We knew we had to climb out of there. So it was just one of those days where you just looked at a road on a map, went over there and did it. You got what you got, and that was an epic day.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long have you lived in Colorado?
Well, since '75, since I was in 6th grade. My mom was born and raised here, and when she married, she went to Chicago, and that's where I was born. But when we grew up, parents split up, and we got to move back to Denver. Mom went home.
So we're on a wheel here. You notice the resistance went down. Taking it a little easier, letting the heart rate come down. As we are on got a nice draft.
Lucky stinger. Love that stuff.
I'm a professional wheel sucker. When did you begin your cycling career? Or the activity, I guess?
Well, it's a kind of continuation of the last story, and as I explored the mountains on a bike and always dreamed of living in the mountains, as well as exploring them, climbing peaks and such, I got out of high school and moved up to Aspen. Actually, we walked there. A couple buddies of mine and I planned a trip for a year, and we got dropped off in the foothills and walked 13 days through the snow and past Vail and up over the Holy Cross Wilderness and under Frying Pan and into Aspen for supplies. Well, it snowed 2 feet. It was June 7th.
Wow, June 7th. Wow.
2 feet in town. So that was several feet up high, and we're talking busted trees and avalanche danger through the roof. So
wow.
Next thing you know, we all had jobs. And I was like, well, I guess we're not going to Durango or Telluride. We're going to stay in Aspen for the summer at least. So we had jobs. We're staying at the hostel. And the Coors Classic came through. And saw, Bernardino and
wow.
Greg LeMond and the original guys from the 7-Eleven team. That's the guys I grew up watching. The original Red Zinger in Boulder when it was 3 days.
Oh, wow.
And, I saw them at Wash Park a couple times, Washington Park here in Denver. And, so they came through Aspen after going over Independence Pass. And I was just, I got enough of just riding. I want to race. And I went to Graywall Sports, which is
Alexi? No kidding.
His father had a bike shop in town. He said, hey, I want to race a bike. Can you help me out? Because, here you're working stiff in Aspen, 19-year-old kid. So he put me on some gear and, help me get started. Did Aspen Club races and stuff. And that was just, I'd always drive to go do other rides everywhere and get over to Mount Evans at least once a year and Trail Ridge Road and do the big epic routes. And over the years, it was just knowing the state, knowing what it is to ride in Colorado and weather and everything. One day I thought, it'd be great if there was a guide. Here I had a library of hiking guides and climbing guides, and there's no cycling guides.
All right.
So when I went, to answer your first question, it's all really interconnected. When I went to try to figure out how to write this book, well, it was just going to be the big passes. And I did a few test drives. I took my bike, my camera, a friend to help out, and I just loaded in the car and we went to see how many passes we could drive over and document in a weekend. And excuse me. Take a drink here. We'll be working real hard pretty soon.
Yeah, it gets pretty miserable.
So I realized very quickly that from a bike, it was not only very dangerous, but very inaccurate. And how are you going to take pictures?
Right.
That are worth anything. And how are you're gonna miss stuff. You're gonna miss details. And not only that, you gotta stay on your bike. You got traffic and everything. So I realized that from a vehicle, you had the ability to speak into a recorder all the information you needed just drive along,
Right.
and just spew into the recorder as much, the stream we're driving by, conditions of the road, the mountain ranges we're looking at, just everything. Just talk it right into there, and worry about getting it on paper later.
Right.
Meanwhile, every time you see a picture op, you pull over and jump out of the truck. And then I would sit in a coffee shop or what have you. I'd do that for days at a time or weeks. Then I'd sit in a coffee shop for days at a time. I'd sit there with maps, my earphones with my recordings in my head, and just writing furiously, poring over maps. And usually at some point, like day 3 or 4 into the same coffee shop, one of the owners or the people working there, "What are you doing? You got maps out?" And so I'd explain to them, and they were always very enthusiastic, keeping me caffeinated so I could get it done. But so that's the answer to no. I didn't ride them all, but I have ridden all over the state all these years, and in order to provide a book that was the quality level that I knew we would all appreciate, I had to be accurate and I had to be thorough,
Right.
and that had to be done from a vehicle. And taking wilderness landscapes all these years, shooting photos of them, I had to actually. I spent all those years avoiding any sign of civilization in my photos, and suddenly the road was the subject.
Right.
But it was still a landscape, a beautiful landscape, one that I knew if people saw the photo, they would absolutely want to ride that road. And so I just adapted, and that's I think that answers 2 or 3 questions.
Wow.
So we're in some flats here before the hill. It looks like
Yeah, this isn't bad here. It's pretty nice.
a little flat top.
Yeah. I think I was under the impression that this climb that was coming up was a lot shorter, and I didn't realize it's the same thing as rabbit ears except steeper. And
You tricked me.
I lost a little discipline, and I was going a little harder than I should have, but for the sake of a single video stage to work out to, it's perfect effort.
Yep.
But if you're riding a century,
Yeah.
or this is actually 110 mile century, this is probably
full
not
loop there that I was looking
the
at.
full loop. Probably not a good idea to go this hard. I was paying for it later.
How fast you going?
How fast? I'm not moving at all. We're on our trainers.
We're going real slow.
Well, we're going 50 kilometers an hour.
Well, I as you can see, I don't have a computer on my bike. And I'm not against them by any means. I just sort of grew up without them.
Old school.
And and Mr. Graywall, Jasjeet was his first name. Jasjeet. He was quite a character, and he was a stern old guy. And he's just like classic, traditional. You must feel it from your heart. You must know your cadence. And it's like. And then of course I got a computer later on. I love them, but I haven't had one since a lot of these innovations have come out.
Right.
It's amazing what you can do with the information that heart rate and power output and stuff like that give you for your training.
Well, it's a great training tool if you're racing or you're training to race.
Yeah. Your VO2 max.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you can peg your maximum output and know when you're right there.
Right.
That's the key. I mean, because in most intense cycling situations, it's not a matter of necessarily, unless you're a superstar, of who you can drop. It's a matter of who can hang on. And it's not so much if you can get away, but if they can keep up.
Right.
And
you race your strengths and you find a place where you can hurt people.
Yeah.
That's what you do. If you're a climber and you got a hill, you go and you hammer on the hills and blow everybody up behind you. And if you're a sprinter, You let them do that.
You let them do it.
Just let them go.
If you're lucky, you'll pass them at the end.
Well, I think you and I probably fell in love with cycling about the same time in the 80s. My heroes were, Greg LeBon, Finney, Davis Finney, Connie Carpenter, Alexi Graywall, Team 711. When I was a teenager, I had pictures of these guys on my wall. It's kind of geeky thinking back, but I, I aspired.
Cheryl Teagues.
Lamont and Cheryl Teagues. That's funny. Or the poster from Tarzan.
That's right.
Tarzan, yeah. Well, I wanted to get strong. I wanted those freaky legs that they had on those stills, and so I used those to aspire to that. Now, what motivated you to race? And I mean, you kind of touched on that a little bit.
Well, I was a cross-country runner. It's a distance runner. I was I was running, sub 4:10 miles and sub right around 2 minutes, half miles. And then the cross-country was 5Ks and 3 milers, and I really liked that a lot. Shorter distances were like, well, focus, it'll be over soon. Serious pain, focus, but the longer distances, you kind of get rolling and relax into it. And it was a thinking man's race at the distance, more so anyways. And I really loved that about it. And seeing the Coors Classic in Wash Park, I mean, the bikes were amazing.
Yeah.
And the riders were so fit. To see him in person was really impressive.
The Moral Bismarck was what really took me forward. I mean, watching the guys sprint up the wall, I mean, that was amazing how fast they went.
Yep.
Well, tell me about the Red Zinger and what the significance of that race is to you.
Well, it was my introduction, and
to racing, right?
It was a lot of things. I was an artist too in school, and the posters were cool. And of course, I wanted a nice bike, and my first job I ever had, I saved all summer and bought a bicycle. I just liked them, and and the Zinger came through, and that was the Coors Classic.
Little climb here, guys.
And kept getting bigger. Got to go see him.
Big ring up front. Sorry, go ahead.
But the thing that was driving me was, I think, there's my truck. I think it was the mountains more than anything. I mean, I know it was. I've been dreaming of living in mountains since I was a kid, watching National Geographic or looking at the magazine and watching things on Mount Everest on black and white TV, when I was a little kid. And I know that sounds archaic, but I mean, I do have a memory of seeing the Apollo moon landing on TV. It's quite a ways back. That's one of my earliest memories. But you see all these things, you're inspired. And if they can do it, you can do it. And I want to do that. But first things first, I wanted to live in the mountains. So I got up there, and can't really help but get on a bike, or you go live in the mountains, and you're either going to be getting on a bike or in a kayak or on a mountain bike, or maybe putting on a climbing harness, or just guys like me. It's inevitable. I ended up doing all those things except the kayaking part. But the races are what really got me just blown away at the potential that I had. That, no matter how inspiring your father can be, unless your father's an astronaut or a champion athlete, or
you had your idols.
They're your king, they're your hero, but when you see those other people, you start dreaming about what you're going to do.
Right.
I think that's really just a visual, seeing it, fitting right into my love of, to ride up one of those big mountain passes, conquer the hill, and be in the wilderness, and see the views. Is all of that, really.
Right.
Racing is really just kind of a side attraction as far as love of cycling and cycling in the mountains.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a way to, I don't know, I guess, provide something tangible to your love,
Yeah.
And also meeting other people who love the sport as much as you do.
Yeah, camaraderie.
So who was your idol? I mean, who was your biggest inspiration? What racer or cyclist or astronaut?
Boy, it's tough. It's a tough question because, my heroes when I was young were, of course, Greg LeMond,
right?
Jacques Boyer. Nobody knows who he is. He was before Greg.
Yeah.
But they both rode for Giton, Team Giton in France, under Bernard Hinault and Laurent Fignon. They were all on the same team one year.
Right.
That's like a dream team. But nobody knew him yet. And then later on, of course, Lance. I mean, I just don't pay attention to the controversies. Lance's achievements are. I mean, how can you not be inspired? But then there's famous mountain climbers that I was probably dreaming of long before. Like Jim Whittaker, first American on Everest.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
The Whittakers of Rainier Mountaineering School. Rick Ridgway, first American on K2. One of the books I read when I was a kid, Everest the West Ridge. It's the first traverse of Everest.
Right.
Up one side, over the top, and down the other side. The story is epic, harrowing.
I want to try something with your mic real quick. Doesn't bend that way. Never mind. Keep going. Yeah, so things like that. It's really just totally things that are completely out of this world difficult. And there's people doing it. So then you have these young dreams that one day I'll be, straddling a knife-edge snow-capped ridge. And so I just set out to accomplish all that, right? Sounds actually pretty good right there. And it's really just been a matter of achieving goals, breaking them down into components that you can follow to the goal. And of course, fitness is number one. Right. Well, mindset's really number one. Fitness and nutrition are right up there equally. And rest is a very close companion. This mic is just having a hard time. Okay, we'll try that. So what was your best event racing? I mean, the category,
What was my best style of event, you mean?
Yeah, I'm assuming climbing.
Yeah. Well, as long as it's not too steep. Because I'm 6'2" and I'm 160 average. So, I'm not a true climber.
Well, you see the tall, skinny guys in the tour, and they're the guys who seem to do really well.
Well, sure, but forgetting his name now, and I shouldn't be because
Hincapie?
No,
that's who I'm thinking of.
No, second place this year was the brothers. Schleck.
Oh, the Schlecks. Yeah.
Schleck. He's 6'1" or 6'2", but he's only 100
that guy's
138 or 48
he's a
pounds.
stick. He's a freak of nature. Yeah.
So weight. It's not so much that I'm tall. It's that
Well, it's a gravity sport.
it is. And but I'd say I'm a solid climber. And on like Mount Evans, I can fly up Mount Evans because it's really not that steep. It's just a matter of fitness.
Well, it's elevation.
Acclimation is the big one.
Yeah, it's the elevation.
And it's a matter of how
I get
much
up
you can
over,
take before you crack.
right over
mean,
10,000 feet, and my body starts doing some strange things.
Yeah.
And my mind start hallucinating,
Yeah.
thinking I'm on the road and I'm actually not.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm on the side of the road in a ditch, but
Yeah.
I still think I'm riding.
So you take a ride like your Wrist Canyon ride.
Yeah.
Oh, that's killing me. And if I'm nice and
Oh,
fit,
yeah.
then I can suffer up it pretty well because it's short. But man, if that thing went on, I'd be in trouble.
You can see the climb ahead here,
Oh, here we go.
and you can see it on the graph
Beautiful.
too.
Just starting into it.
Yeah. And we're gonna let these young guys go.
Then my other.
No, we're showing off our age here, talking
Yeah,
about
that's right.
all these guys.
But if you get a more all-around kind of route, rollers and more moderate climbs, that's where I really can fly.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun. And then distance, you can get me warmed up over 40 miles or so, and
Right.
actually start getting stronger. So and that's just the years of doing it.
Well, this video is titled "Climbing for Life" because we go over 3 mountain passes, roughly 10,000 feet total elevation gained over the ride, but I understand you rode several mountain passes. Name a couple of significant ones out here in Colorado,
Well,
or wherever.
my hands down favorite is, I have to say, well, other than Mount Evans and Trail Ridge Road, which are right in there,
Trail Ridge, yeah.
have to be Red Mountain Pass out of Ouray.
Oh yeah.
Ouray to Silverton. It's 13 miles, and it's a narrow canyon, and there's just some amazing, switchbacks and sheer drop-offs and narrow roads.
Right.
It's just a classic, epic mountain pass. Independence is right up there. Rode that many, many, many times when I lived in Aspen. Never get tired of it. Cottonwood, it's a great ride. But those are all single passes. When you mentioned this has 3 passes?
Well, 2.5. Well, this is the second big one here, and the other couple I think add up to about 600 feet, 700.
But I have to say, as far as epic one-day tours go, the one that comes to mind for me is my many great memories of five successful completions of the death ride.
Out in California? Or?
No.
You're talking about the Durango one.
Durango death ride. It's much harder than the one in California. So
Well, that's on my list of things to talk to you about, but give it to me. What is that ride about?
Well, it's 228 miles, give or take, depending on a couple little turns you can take toward the end. And there's 5 passes, 5 major passes.
Wow.
And you start with out of Durango, and you start with Colbank, then Mullis, then Red Mountain, as you head through Silverton and then into Ouray. And
Just indoor trainer.
those are all, Colbank's at 10,000 feet, Mullis is at 11,
Other people on station.
and Red Mountain's at over 11 as well.
I go to a
And then you fly down into, the other thing about Red Mountain, if you're coming down it into Ouray, it's one of the most amazing and
Basically, you
and
put your bike on a trainer.
potentially scary descents you can do, right? So there's a few places in there you really don't want to have any problems. And then you head north and up over Dallas Divide, right, into Telluride, and that's about mile 100 at Dallas Divide. And
For spin classes.
then it's up through Placerville, and you ride by Telluride. You don't go into the town. Then you got to go over Lizard Head Pass.
Is this an organized event, or was this something you put together?
It's a local thing. It's unofficial. It's show up at Durango Cyclery at 4 a.m. Show up or don't show up, right? You got a headlamp for the first part, and you usually have a couple cars behind us with headlights, right? You usually have sag support for it.
I hate to interrupt you. Here's where our climb really begins. Let's get in that big ring up front, and once you really feel the climb here, we're going to slow the cadence down a bit to around 65, 70, and this is where it's going to pretty much stay for the next half hour or so. So, I mean, you're probably used to riding at a higher cadence, but
well, I'm on a 53 too.
Oh, no kidding.
I'm probably going to drop it here.
That's fine.
50 more miles.
And then also the heart rate, pretty much in the red, low red zone, 91, 92% of max. So sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
Just wanted to add that.
Climb, I won't be talking too much. Yeah, you know, it does the big loop. It's the San Juan Skyway. It's one of the scenic routes in the state, and it's just an amazing thing. I've done it in under 15 hours and in as many as 17.
Wow, it's a whole day event.
Yeah. It's that's why we start so early, because if you're unlucky, you're still going to finish in the dark. It was just locals, probably 25 plus years ago, right? And they were just like, well, so if it was the longest day of the year, what's the longest ride we could do out of Durango? It's a loop. And doing one day. And that's what it was.
Wow.
It's got some nearly 15,000 vertical.
That's insane.
So I've tried 6 of them, finished 5. The hardest part is, you wouldn't believe it, is from the top of Blizzard Head down to Dolores. It's 55 miles downhill.
And that's hard.
Once you get off the main summit of Blizzard Head, it's just a gradual descent into Dolores. And there's always a stiff headwind coming up that valley. So you're pedaling hard the whole time, going downhill, going slow, into a headwind, and you're up getting towards mile 200.
Oh man.
It's like a 3 to 4 hour, 50 mile ride downhill.
Wow. Well, this climb was really tough. I just mentioned it that we're going about 7 miles an hour. And we had a 7 mile an hour tailwind, and it was about 90 degrees.
Yikes.
Michael gets it.
Yeah.
It was hot, and the flies were hanging over me like I was a turd.
Sticking to you.
So, obviously you have been climbing a lot. And being or living in Colorado requires you that you have some climbing skills. I'm trying to do this out of breath. What advice would you give to somebody who's training to be a better climber? Well, there's my canned question. We're in a big gear here. Let you think about it.
Well, we'll just assume that the person wants to be a better climber and not necessarily fast, and that
Right. That's what I mean.
weight is huge. It's a huge thing. And I'm not saying go spend $5,000 to take a pound off your bike.
Right.
But I'm saying every pound counts. And so, you know, if you want to make yourself into a climber, then you have to lean up. Any bulking exercises you're doing, you have to stop. You shouldn't be doing any upper body. Basically, you want all the weight and the strength in your legs and in your power plant,
Right.
and your lower back and your butt. And but that's, you know, if you want to specialize in climbing, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
You see those guys? They're emaciated on top, and on the bottom, they're hulks.
Like,
but you know, they're
T-Rexes.
But some of them are 5'5", 138 pounds. You know, they're little people, and you don't see that on TV. So, it really is very specialized. Now, if you just want to be better at climbing, well, think about weight, of course. So maybe you can lean up a little if you think you're a bit heavy for it. You know, all the great climbers, all the great tour winners, from like 138 pounds to 155. That's about it. Start getting too heavy to be able to handle all the terrain. And so you have to think about that. And then the other thing is your form is huge. You want to have very how should I say? You want to ride with a style that doesn't use any more energy than it needs to. And so if you look at those guys, and this is how I learned to ride, just watching video and looking at pictures of the pros. You know, if you look on, the shoulders are down, they're down, their hands are barely hanging on the handlebars. They're just resting there. It's their abdomen that's holding their body up. Their shoulders aren't stiff. They're fluid with the bike.
Yeah.
A little bit of rocking maybe. For some of them, it's their style. It's all focused on not using energy and keeping a low profile and being very conservative with your energy. And then your spin is huge. You need to have a smooth spin. If you're pedaling in squares, you're wasting energy. You know, it's just spin. I can't say enough about a good and solid spin for transfer of energy and efficiency.
Define what you mean by pedaling squares.
Like if, well, as many of us know, your shoes are attached to the pedal, and so you can pull up, push forward, pull back. And so if you do that, if you pull up, push forward, push down, pull back, pull up, push forward, push down, you know, that's your pedaling, right? But that's pedaling in squares. If you use even pressure, sure, you're still pushing forward, pushing down, pulling back, pulling up, but it's a fluid motion, so that your effort is going in the precise direction around that circle that creates even circular pressure as you pedal around. And what's big on that is that both your feet are working in tandem, not independently. So it's not about just stomping down the pedals as if you're running up the stairs. It's about a fluid spinning motion that actually comes from your hips and your knees. Right? It's not your feet doing anything but sort of being attached to the pedal in a way. That's not to say that your foot position doesn't have a lot to do with it too. I find I like my heels to be down. Yeah. Especially when I'm climbing. And if you look at some of the pros, they'll have their heel buried in the ground. Wow. Like they're in the bottom of their stroke, their heel will be below the when they're locked out, right? Pedal. When they're in the bottom of their stroke. But if you also look at my shoes now, they're still down as opposed to this. Right, you're not towing. Some riders ride like this. Towing into the ride. I don't, yeah, that's not for me. Oh, that's like a ankling gone wild. And so you have to develop your own style that works with your ergonomics. But you want to be smooth and efficient. And your bike has to fit. You know, your bike really has to fit to sit in a saddle and climb a big hill and be graceful.
I talked about this on the last stage when it was a short 45 minute, and all I did was talk about bike fit.
Yeah.
But it's always good to reinforce some of that and also get different perspective. Tell me what you're going to say about fit.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's
what's
just
important.
Because on a hill, you're struggling so hard, and you're sitting in the seat, and you're trying to have a graceful spin.
Right.
If your seat's too high or too low or too forward or backward, or your stem's too long or short, or you're just not gonna be fluid. And you can develop back problems or knee problems because you're grinding up a hill for so long in the same position. And then even handlebar width. You got to think about your shoulder width. If you're a broad-shouldered person, then if you get narrow handlebars, you're going to be closing up your lung cavity.
Yeah.
If you want to get the widest handlebar you can get and still have a good fit,
so you
can open up your chest and breathe.
Yeah. Shoulder width.
Yeah. And then breathing is. I learned this in running. Pacing your breathing. You have to have a rhythmic pace.
Yeah.
If you breathe herky-jerky, you're just going to go into oxygen debt, and you're going to get dropped. You have to, no matter what's going on, no matter what you're doing, you have to maintain your breathing. I mean, I'm sure we all know what happens when you take a nice long drink of water on a climb.
Yeah.
And if you choke it down, it takes you a few minutes to get back. Well, most of that's because your muscles just got deprived of a bunch of oxygen.
Yeah.
And you made them still work.
I haven't mentioned this. The video. Is that me or you? That's you. The breath noise. Or maybe it's me. I don't know. Anyway, on the video there's a water bottle that pops up every 5 minutes during the climb.
That's great.
Reminding us to take a drink. And so we're not chugging it when we're thirsty and doing exactly what you're saying.
Well, and you bring up another important point of hydration and nutrition. And, when you're riding a bike, cruising around the countryside, you can get away with a lot. But you want to climb a hill fast, and you got to be topped off.
Yeah.
You got to have fuel ready to go. And if you're consuming that fuel on the climb, you're way too late.
Yeah.
Unless it's straight sugar. If it's glucose, that's fine, but that's just going to get you, the next couple miles. That's not going to keep you for the day, and so you have to think ahead. And you got to eat a lot in the first part of your ride. That's the other thing. You have all this coverage of the European races online and on TV. You watch those guys. Watch a spring classic where it's 220 kilometers, cobblestones, short steep hills, just brutal conditions, freezing rain, whatever. Well, they're all cruising real slow in the beginning. They're all eating. They're all stuffing their faces. And and then about the halfway point, usually they eat again. And then they start winding it up. It's time to race. And if you're just now eating at that point, you're going to get dropped. And it all ties together. So you want to climb well, you got to have all the pieces in place.
Yeah, it's a big puzzle, and it is hard to. And there's a lot of trial and error.
Yep.
Look at this guy.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's probably you.
But you can, and if you want to climb well, you have to be patient when you're climbing. You don't want to get excited in the beginning of a hill.
No. Yeah, tell us more about that. That's important.
Well, it's very easy to get excited when you get into the bottom of the hill and everybody else is excited, and it gets a little nervous. You don't know who's going to do what. You don't even know who they are, maybe. You don't know what they can do. And you got to know yourself big time. Because you go following somebody's wheel, you might follow them into a very bad place.
Yeah.
And end up on the side of the road with cramps or what have you, spent. So you have to be mature mentally, and you have to be patient.
Ride
You
your
have to
own ride.
know your body.
Yeah.
And if you think you can take off and hammer up to the remaining miles of that hill, that's your prerogative. But you have to know yourself to do that. And that takes time, experience.
Slowly build up to your climbing rhythm. If you jump into it too fast, you have no idea what your rhythm is.
Yep.
If you're an experienced climber, that's a different story. I mean, you know where you should be and when, and you can get up to that pace much quicker. But
That's our elevation.
for those of us who are not avid climbers or who don't have as much experience, it's important to work up to your heart rate very slowly and gradually.
Thanks.
Not try to get your climbing heart rate within a minute, you know. Take a good 10 minutes to work yourself up to that climbing heart rate.
Yeah, that's so very important, and it's another lesson you can learn from watching the pros. And when you see someone like Contador go off the front like he got shot out of a cannon, and everybody sits there and they look at each other and sit there, and nobody does anything. Well, they can't because they know what they can do.
They're smart enough not to.
And they know that they can ride fast, but for that short amount of time, they can't keep up with him. So what they have to do, because he'll slow up, and they have to ride within themselves and slowly get themselves back if they can.
You got a little reprieve here. You're going to take a little rest for a short while. The road is flattening out here.
Yeah, so it's really important just to ride smart, to always be thinking about what's coming up, what you're doing, what you've done, how you feel.
Yeah. Oh, my mic is getting wet from sweat, so it sounds a little muffly, sorry. So people who are arriving into Colorado want to try to challenge themselves in the mountains may not realize the risks that are involved. What can you tell them about some of the risks of riding in the mountains? It was in your book.
Yes, I talk rather extensively about mountain safety. Of course, automobiles are a big concern, but they always are when you're on a road. Doesn't matter where you are. When you're in the mountains, and when you're in the mountains as compared to, say, in the flatlands or down on the coast or lower elevations. But when you get up in the mountains, then you got altitude to deal with. So if you're not acclimated, you need to understand how it feels to, the symptoms of altitude sickness.
Yeah.
You need to understand what the weather's doing, because lightning is a very real issue in the high country when you're way up there.
Been there.
And you're on a piece of metal. It's a bunch of salt and water inside you. And
Test.
The road conditions, there's places you can wipe out in the mountains where you'll go off the side of the mountain and you're done. There's constantly gravel in the corners up high. You got wildlife. You got rock fall coming into the roads. Hypothermia is a huge consideration. It can be, 90 degrees in Durango, and you ride up the valley, up a pole bank, and now it's 50 degrees, and there's a black wall of rain coming, and lightning and hail, and you've got a flat tire, and just the 5-10 minutes it takes to fix your flat tire, you're already shivering.
Well, we're struck.
So then, we're struck. And so you're shivering, you get on your bike and start going 50 miles an hour down a pass, wet and shivering in 50 degrees. You're not going to get rid of your hypothermia. So it's really crucial that you have the clothing you need. It's always better to take more than you need. And you just stuff it in your jersey pockets as much as you can.
Layer?
Yeah, layer. And the thing I love about jersey pockets is if you know it's going to be pretty cold, just put 2 jerseys on. Now you got 6 pockets. It looks kind of funny, like the Hunchback when you're all loaded up, but
there's a guy in the 5th DVD, if you guys still riding in. Yeah, he looks like that. Just stuff all through his jersey pockets.
yeah,
I mean, he's packed.
yeah, it's no joke. You know, you got, the other thing is a lot of places you don't have cell service. And there's not even a phone. In fact, you're in the middle of nowhere for miles at a time. And if not for a passing motorist stopping, or state patrol coming by or something, you're in wilderness without gear on the side of a road somewhere. And the day's moving on. It's getting dark, or storm's coming in. It's not a pretty scenario. In fact, they rescue people. They take buses up to top of the passes during the Iron Horse Classic, or from Durango to Silverton. Some years it snows on them because it's Memorial Day, early spring, and they have to evacuate people because they're hypothermic. So it's a very real thing to think about.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to prepare yourself for how the altitude will feel, but just be aware that the altitude will affect your heart rate tremendously, and you have to really pace yourself up steep passes very, very carefully.
Yep. Yeah, it's not. When I finished the book, my publisher was like, "Well, can we put some easier rides in here?" And, they're not cyclists, and it's like, "Well, we have all the roads in there."
Cherry Creek Trail.
Yeah, it's like we have all the roads in there. Within the mountains, the book has basically every piece of pavement, and so that's all in there. I said, "But aren't there some easy ones?" Well, not really. I mean, it's the Rocky Mountains, and you gotta understand that if you're coming from somewhere where you're not used to it, it's not a little thing for a lot of people, and you don't want to underestimate it. And there's a lot. Reading the weather, learning Colorado weather is something to do.
I think the rule of thumb there is just be prepared for anything, because it'll jump on you so fast. You'll leave and it's a beautiful blue day.
Yep.
And you'll get up to the summit and you'll be caught in a thunderstorm.
See these guys here, blue skies on the video here, standing by the side of the road, enjoying the sun.
Yeah.
That's all fine when we're in 12,000, 11,000 feet, and thunder's coming in.
Oh, well, about 5 years ago, it almost seems like every year actually, but the triple bypass.
Was it bad this year?
Oh, I didn't go. But about 4 years ago, we got to the top of Leveland Pass, and there was these huge bumpers rolling in. I mean, they were scary looking. And my friend and I, we tore off and really tried to minimize our stops at the rest, because it was nipping at our heels, and it was chasing us as we were heading west of the divide. And by the time we got into Avon, they were on top of us, and it was pouring.
But you made it.
Thunder. Oh yeah, we beat it. We beat it.
Yeah.
We were driving back, and these poor people that are still on the course were just getting drenched. Felt bad. But I mean, you pack your rain gear and your, jacket, rain pants, and a hood that you can put over your helmet. Just leave those in a kit that you just don't touch until you need it, because you never know.
Yep, that's exactly it. I always bring tools, but not just like a little multi-wrench. I bring spoke wrench, because you can take a broken spoke out and screw your wheel around it, get yourself home. If you've got a really nice bomb-proof set of wheels like I train on, yeah, you'd probably ride that wheel without that spoke for the rest of the summer and wouldn't even know the difference. But
still make it
a little bit of learning can get you home. Like tire boots. What's a tire boot? Well, take an old one of your tires and you cut a section out of it, And I've had rips in my tires where they're unfixable, and you're miles from Durango or wherever, and you lay that piece of tire in where the rip is. You've already patched the tube. You lay that in between the tire and the tube, and it'll get you home. And in good measure too, actually. But there's things to do, to be resourceful, and to have it together up there.
Yep.
Yep to that. Yeah, I've had many close calls over the years, and if it weren't for gear and or tools, I might be in big trouble. So I can get into the meat here. It's going to start getting a little harder.
Yeah, it gets a little steeper. This is a little flat spot here, but it's going to go right back up. So in your book, you mentioned that one of your ultimate challenges was a 9-day tour across Colorado. Tell me about that.
Oh yeah, that's quite a memory. That was, let's see, how did that happen? I was living in Durango, and a friend of mine, or I should say someone I had met recently, who was a fellow cyclist, became good buddies, started riding a lot, and I had told him, I had this idea. I even had a map drawn out of the route. This idea, to do this ride from the Front Range to Durango, and I had mapped it out into stages that were doable, and it just worked out to be 9 days. But it was all mostly climbing. It was kind of a tour of all the ultimate classic passes that we could fit in that route. And so what we did was we drove up to Estes Park in just inside the foothills on the northern Front Range, a couple hours from Denver to the north. And so we drove across the state to get up there, and we had our girlfriends driving SAG, and so we didn't have to carry anything. And first day was up over Trail Ridge Road and into Grand Lake, but actually we went let's see, how did we do it? We went into Grand Lake, and then the second day, see if I can do this by memory, the second day was up over Berthoud Pass from Winter Park to Idaho Springs. The third day we did Mount Evans back to Idaho Springs, and the fourth day up I-70 to the Eisenhower Tunnel, but instead we went over Loveland Pass. That was the big day. We went
That's a big climb.
let's see, we went over Loveland Pass, through Breckenridge, over Hoosier Pass, through South Park, over, what's that, Tennessee, no, Trout Creek Pass, into, no, I'm sorry, let me back up. No, we went over Loveland Pass, and then into Dillon. Then we went through to Copper Mountain and up over Fremont Pass into Leadville. And that was that day. And then we went Leadville to Aspen, over Independence. And see, then from Aspen we drove to Carbondale, and we went Carbondale to Grand Junction, over McClure Pass. I'm sorry, Carbondale to Montrose.
Everybody getting this?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Sorry, people. This was like 15 years ago. Let's see. We went over McClure Pass. Yes, into Montrose, and then from Montrose up over the three passes into Durango the last day. It was epic mileage.
How many miles was that ride?
I think it was like 700 or So I want to say 750-ish or something. I've got the old map digitized, the drawing digitized. I'll send it to you.
Okay. I'll put it on the website.
No, that was a great. Never had to carry a thing. Just beautiful. The first day though it was crazy because we were going up over Trail Ridge Road and freezing hail, rain up above tree line. We were miserable and we were just like, is this a sign of things to come? But after that it was sunny skies the whole time. Yeah, that was just born from that love of, man, these roads look awesome. Let's go ride them. And I had known these roads for a while at that point. And I thought, well, this would be a great route through the state. And it just came together and we did it. And that's the epitome of what brought the book together, what brought me to ride.
That 9-day tour?
Well, just it's another example of
things that led up to it.
Yeah, things that have led to it. Reasons I love the cycling in the mountains. It's just amazing.
So how did you go from about the idea and then actually doing it?
Well, that was where the family came in. This is truly a family project because, as a chef in a little tourist town in Colorado, it's not like
you're a chef.
You're not getting rich very fast.
I forgot you cooked.
And it was this, so I did that test trip I referred to earlier where I went and did some documentation and to figure out how I would go about writing the book. So I had done that, but then it was just like, yeah, well, it'll take me, 10 years of weekends to do this, and money I don't have. And so I just put it on the shelf. And all my friends thought it was a great idea, and my family and everybody, but it just seemed so improbable to be able to get it done with my means. But years went by, like 10 years, still no book out there. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
Not one.
I realized it was that long.
Yeah, and I got the idea, I'd have to say, in early 90s. It was nearly 10 years before it came to fruition. And I was talking about one day, this was in 1999, and I was a little down because I'm in Durango and life's just same old tourist town. And I wanted to do something, and my sister and brother-in-law had since moved from Denver down to Tucson, Arizona, and they had this detached garage in their backyard they were remodeling into a studio apartment. And they just got this brainstorm like, hey, wait a minute, we can do this. I said, you come down here, you quit your job, leave Durango, come down here, we'll put you up, we'll feed you. You can get a job down here and save all that money. And we'll see if we can get a publisher. See if we can get a publishing contract.
Yeah.
And I just kind of crossed my fingers and went for it. So it was kind of ironic, very ironic really, in that in order to write a cycling guide for Colorado, I had to leave Colorado. So I spent the winter down there. I worked for a catering company.
Jerk.
See that guy fly by you? Yeah.
That's just not right.
He got out of a car.
He got out of the car. I was going to say that. Yeah. Car getting on a push.
Guys, come back here. We'll see him again in our dreams.
Yeah, he's got a little motor built into that rear hub.
He was looking strong. Did you see how smooth he was flying by us?
Amazing.
Yeah, he's not hurting. Look, he just went right by those guys in front of us. He was a smooth rider,
I'll say.
So, where were we? Oh, so I go down there, and my sister helped me put together a proposal. So it's 20 pages of sample writing, and two pages of slides of old landscapes of mine and some samples of roads that I had photographed on my test trip. And so all these years I was taking photos, I was inspired by John Fielder, who is
Yeah, I know.
he's somewhat world-renowned around for his photographs of Colorado landscapes. And he had been publishing all his own books all those years. Westcliff Publishers out in Denver. And he was the first person who came to mind. Like, not only would I know I would get my photos in color, but it would be on nice paper and a nice book, you know. It wouldn't be one of those, you know, newsprint and black and white photo kind of guidebooks. And we sent it to them, and they took it, just like that. So one proposal to one publisher.
Wow.
And they said, you know, we've been looking to do a cycling guide. There aren't any. And we were trying to find someone that could also take the pictures. And you're the first one to fit the bill.
This is real steep here. Sorry.
Time to work.
Put a 10 out of 10 on the resistance.
Oh, yeah, make
about
it work.
Cadence of 50. Just a nice hard grind.
Yeah, so it was just surreal. So, but you know, so I remember the conversation. I get off the phone, and they're my brother-in-law and my sister. They're looking at me, and I'm like, they said yes. What do you mean? I mean, they said yes. Yes to what? Well, what do you think they said yes to? You got a book contract? Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, they want everything by November next year. My brother-in-law looks at me and my sister says, oh, great, this is fantastic. And I said, yeah, it's great, but now I have to actually go do it.
As the work begins.
And my brother-in-law looks at me and nods like, you know, we were both cued into like the work ahead. My sister was just like, I got a publisher, but there's no book yet. And yeah, that's how that happened. And sure enough, the next spring, next thing I know, I'm leaving Tucson for Colorado. Me and my camera and my bike and my dog and what I need, my climbing gear, and packed in my little pickup, heading for Colorado. First place I arrived was Lizard Head Pass. I tell you, you ever seen a grown man cry? When I drove into the state, you gotta understand, I'm a Colorado mountain boy. You know, that sounds corny, but it's a real thing. And I was down in Tucson where the rivers don't have water in them, and the plants aren't green, and I couldn't rock climb because the forests are all closed because of fire danger, and it's 100 degrees anyways, and the rock's 130 degrees. You can hardly touch it. That's summer in Tucson. And I drove up into Colorado, and I remember clearly stopping just north of the border. I finally saw the Weminuche Wilderness and all the San Juan Mountains and the Needles, and it's my home, you know. And climbed all those mountains, walked all those ridges, and it was green. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy. I pulled over the side of the road and I got out. And that's when I just welled up because I could hear the river down by the side of the road actually running water. That's when I realized I really can't be leaving Colorado anymore.
Yeah. So I think I read your bio, said, well, I know this too from talking to you, you're a real avid rock climber. And I guess, you know, that fits well into cross-training for cycling and climbing and, you know, really any other sport.
It really does.
What got you into rock climbing, I guess? Or, you know, what is it about rock climbing that you enjoy?
It's really just an extension of mountaineering. All the years of bagging peaks and winter, summer. Just to want to progress into vertical rock, and you know, the technical aspect of it, it seems very crazy, but it's really quite methodical and controlled.
Well, we're not just talking about hiking
We're talking about actually scaling
Oh yeah.
sheer faces.
You know, I spent the first many years of my mountaineering experience bagging peaks all over the state. You know, alpine mountaineering, climbing up mountains to summits and trudging through snow, and then I kind of came down out of the mountains and got on a rock. And I proceeded to, you know, climb big walls, 1,000-foot walls, or anywhere from 50 feet to 1,000 feet or more, you know, just vertical rock. And I was a volunteer with Mountain Rescue, EMT medic, and so it all played together, tied in together. And it keeps you extremely fit, but it doesn't make you real big. I mean, you think climbing a hill on a bike's hard. You know, I remember a buddy of mine saying after I taught him how to rock climb one day, he says, I've never worked so hard with every ounce of my body and mind to go 10 feet. You know, and it's really intense, really focusing. It really focuses you, and it helps you to focus in very intense situations where there are certainly many dangers.
I'm sure you have to be very aware of what's going on around you, despite the thrill.
Exactly.
You know, you have to be
right.
smart about what you're doing.
And I have to say I'm more comfortable a couple hundred feet up than I am 5 feet off the ground.
You know, ladders are not my friend either.
But you know, so there's a cross-training aspect that's huge, upper body, but it's still endurance training. It's not bulking you out. And mental conditioning, focus, because it's not just hard, it's painful at times. You know, jamming your hands in the cracks and sticking your toes in little, you know, you got to really put that aside and focus on the technique. And the same on a bike. When you're climbing, you're suffering on a hill, you have to focus on your form.
Yeah, we're suffering right here.
Yeah.
Very grueling, difficult climb right now. Should really feel those legs burning up.
But I can't speak enough about cross training because, you know, I used to lift weights, do endurance lifting or circuits where you do lighter weights and high reps and very little rest. And that was extremely helpful. I'd do that all winter. I'd get back on my bike, and not only would I have not lost anything, I'd be stronger. Just a matter of getting your lungs right back there, and you just do a lot for yourself over one winter. And certainly that helped rock climbing. And then I got into, well, since I had started as a distance runner all those years ago, the thing to do up in the mountains is the ultra distance trail running. So I really got into that naturally. And you're talking, you know, you and a couple buddies, you go run for 10 hours, and in the process you've climbed up and over 3 12,000 foot peaks and gone 25 miles in a day's work, you know, and that kind of stuff. So all the same attributes, not only benefits, but things you need to do it mentally and physically. It's all the same. And the biggest benefit really was the rest. And what I mean to say is that well, for example, I use mountain bike racers as an example. When I was growing up riding in Durango, a lot of the road riders were the first generation of pro mountain bike racers. Ned Overend, Bob Roll, what was his name? John Herbold. Was it John? Maybe it was Jim. I think it was Jim. We call him Hairball because he was like the first world champion downhiller. And all those guys, Missy Giove, trying to remember all the girls, but basically the first generation of the world's best mountain bike racers all lived in Durango. And if you recall, the first mountain bike world championships were in Durango. And my point is is that in the Durango club rides, all those guys are on their road bikes, every bit as much as they're on mountain bikes, because they could do more mileage and totally trash their cardiovascular and their legs and not worry about getting beat up or crashing and the constant jarring. You could sit on your bike and really get fit and really do some serious mileage and speed work and strengthening and and have more control over your abilities, because on a typical mountain bike course you have to do what the course demands, and so whereas on a road biking you have a little more versatility to choose your terrain.
Yeah, you can use road biking to discipline your effort.
Yeah.
Whereas mountain biking, the mountain tells you what to do.
Exactly.
And depending on how technical or steep the section is, and you have to get past it or walk your bike. Typically you're just going to have to put in that 110% effort to get over the rocks or up that really steep section. So it's not an aerobic discipline so much. It's definitely a power building sport if you want to get really strong in a mountain bike.
Yeah, and then the mileage, 50 miles on a mountain bike is epic.
Yeah.
On a road bike, that's not a lot.
A day in the walk in the park, yeah.
And so you can really, really provide an excellent cross-training experience that leaves you fresh for the mountain bike, not beat up from it.
Well, mountain biking turned me into a better road cyclist.
Yeah, it works both ways, absolutely. But
especially
you
with
can't get road legs on a mountain bike.
No.
And
well, you can build your pain threshold.
You can, yeah. No, it's definitely.
We're almost up this thing.
Yeah, we're almost there. So the cross-training picture is huge, and whether it be weights or alternative sports, I love the alternative sports because, again, it keeps you fresh. Your mind doesn't get bored. Your body doesn't get tricked into the same thing all the time. You really can mix it up, and it takes you a little bit. When I would rock climb a day and then get on my road bike or then go do a run or something, what I found did me better was if I rode my bike for several days or a week or two.
Yeah.
And then get on one of the other, go do some runs or go climb, because it would take a day or two to get a rhythm back for that particular sport. But once it was there, you were stronger because you were rested for that. Your muscles have the memory to the activity, and you were fresh, but yet you had been training because you'd been doing other activities.
Well, guys, thanks a lot, Michael. I appreciate it. And everybody else, start warming down and get ready to get off the bike. And you can put in the second disc if you want to keep going. It's mostly downhill with about a 500-foot climb. But second disc is about an hour long. So if you pick it up tomorrow, great. If you want to keep going, then keep going. More power to you. Michael Seberg, roadbikingcolorado.com or .org?
.com.
Check out his book, and I really appreciate you joining me. It was a lot of fun.
It was great. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was cool. And, you can go to the website, or actually the place to best communicate with me would be Facebook. Just search the exact title of the book. You can also search my name on Facebook, and you'll find my page. You'll also find my Colorado landscape photography page.
Thanks again, Michael. I'll put that information on cycling videos online. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bip bop out.
Where'd you get that name?
Behind the Bars of Paul.
Behind the Bars of Paul.